Harper back up top. Wemby for three. Well short. McBride does a good job staying in front. Wembanyama three-pointer. Champagnie kicks it out in the corner. Corner three.
But if you just looked at Wemby's numbers, you say, man, Wemby had a great game. Wemby did not have a good game.
No.
That's why you can't go strictly by numbers. Wemby's numbers look impressive, but he did not have a good game.
6 out of 21 from the floor.
They have got to be better down here, and that's a good way to start. Brunson trying to stop Castle. Towns helping out as well. Once again inside Wembanyama, and he throws it down. You got to be scratching your head a little bit. You finally leave him, and he knocks down two as Wembanyama.
Games 1 and 2, I felt like he didn't have good energy in game 1 and game 2. Last night, he had 3 dunks in the first 5 minutes. Totally different player.
When you really break down Frederick Miami's first playoff journey at just 22 years old, what he's managed to accomplish from the opening round all the way to the finals has been nothing less than incredible. At only 22, with absolutely no postseason experience under his belt, he's already guided this Spurs team to the NBA Finals, knocking off the defending champion OKC Thunder and league MVP SGA during the process. Most impressive. Now, as you guys already know, every step deeper into the NBA playoffs brings a completely different level of pressure. From the first round to the second round, then from the conference finals to the finals, the spotlight gets brighter, the expectations get heavier, and the intensity jumps several levels. For this Spurs squad, though, those high-pressure moments throughout rounds 1, 2, and 3 never really seemed to shake their confidence. But hold up, once they reached the finals and stepped onto that stage for the first time, things started looking a little different because Game 1 and Game 2 were pretty shaky.
Pulls up, jump shot. Back of the rim won't go. Wemby the rebound. 12 seconds remaining. Stolen by Brunson and knocked down by Wemby. Bridges on him. 4 seconds. Fox to Wembanyama. Pulls up, jumper. Won't go. Rebound taken by Vassell. It's over.
So look, when we're talking about Wemby's first 2 finals appearances, I wouldn't go as far as saying he was terrible. It wasn't some historic collapse or anything close to that, but by Wemby standards, those first 2 games were clearly below the level we've gotten used to seeing. The raw numbers were still there. He's averaging 28 points, 11 rebounds, nearly 4 blocks and 2 steals. On paper, those stats look outstanding, but if you actually watch those games and compare them to what he did against OKC, listen to this. There was definitely a noticeable drop-off, and the biggest giveaway was right there in the details, with 5 turnovers per game and efficiency that simply wasn't up to par. We're talking about shooting just 40.5% from the field. For a player his size, that's rough. And from beyond arc, he was under 30% while taking more than 7.5 threes per game. Come again. So when it comes to today's version of basketball, sure, nobody is arguing that the three-point shot isn't important, but when you look at a player like Victor with his size, length, and unique skill set, he's one of the rare exceptions where living beyond the arc shouldn't be the priority. At his absolute best, he's attacking the rim, operating in the paint, and facing defenders up in the mid-range. At his worst, unless he's completely locked in from deep, he's standing 35 feet away from the basket, settling for contested threes. Trust me, defenses are more than happy to live with those shots. What they absolutely don't want to see is Victor getting downhill, catching lobs, establishing deep position, and constantly touching the paint.
Fox and Castle back in. Alley-oop to Wembanyama and easily throws it down. Drives into the paint, stops, finds Wemby inside with the flush. Alley-oop to Wembanyama.
When you break down Victor's toughest games in this series, there's one pattern that keeps showing up over and over again. A huge chunk of his offense is coming from the perimeter instead of where he's most dangerous. Take Game 1, for example, his finals debut, where he finished just 6 for 21 from the field. His average shot distance in that game was 15.2 feet. For a player like Victor, hold up, that's simply not good enough. Then you move to Game 2. That number dropped slightly to 11 feet, and what happened? He looked 10 times more effective, especially after halftime. Now listen to this. Let's get to Game 3. His average shot distance fell all the way to 8.4 feet. And what was the result? He completely took over the game and delivered the best finals performance of his career so far. It's really that simple. If we're talking about the entire playoff run and not just games 1 through 3, Victor is at his absolute best when he's operating near the basket, 8 feet and in. And one of the biggest indicators of whether you're getting a dominant Victor night or a quiet one is how he's being used from the opening tip. How is he attacking early, and how are the Spurs choosing to establish him? Look at Game 3. The intention was obvious right from the start. He catches around the rim and touches deep in the paint, and unsurprisingly, that approach paid off in a major way during the first quarter.
They have got to be better down here, and that's a good way to start. Towns helping out as well. Once again inside Wembanyama, and he throws it down. Castle throws it up.
Now, one thing I want to point out real quick is just how physical the Knicks have been when defending Victor. Their entire strategy has been to shove him away from the paint and force him into settling for jump shots. In Game 1 and during the first half of Game 2, that approach was working extremely well. But hold up, look at the second half of Game 2 and then the entirety of Game 3. Victor started imposing his will on New York over and over again, and Karl-Anthony Towns felt it too. And there's something important you have to understand here. The longer a playoff series lasts, the more familiar players become with what they're seeing on the floor. Early in this matchup, Victor looked completely thrown off by the way Towns was defending him. Just look at the numbers. He put up 33 points while shooting 8 for 25 from the field, 2 for 11 from deep, committed 8 turnovers, and finished as a -3. At that stage, Towns was winning the battle and doing an outstanding job making life difficult for Victor. Now, take a look at the last 6 quarters. The switch flipped completely. He exploded for 54 points while shooting 20 for 35 and 46% from 3. The volume from deep dropped significantly, the turnovers were cut down to just 3, and he posted a +13. In a very short stretch, Victor completely reversed the script. The first 6 quarters looked like a player searching for answers. The next 6 quarters looked like an MVP candidate and arguably the best player on the planet. And what changed? The three-point attempts went down while the paint touches went way up. For Victor's game, listen to this, it really is that straightforward. Get him catches near the basket, get him touches around the rim, and good things are usually going to happen. Well, of course. Now, to drive this point home even further, let's look at Victor's highest-rated playoff performances according to Game Score, a metric designed to measure a player's overall impact and production. The 6 best games of his postseason came against OKC, Minnesota, the Knicks, Portland, OKC again, and then Minnesota. And when you examine those performances through the lens of Game Score, the numbers are outstanding. A few of those outings were flat out legendary. But here's where things get interesting. Look at how many three-pointers he attempted in each of those 6 games. Against OKC, in his best game, he took only 2. Against Minnesota, he attempted 5. Against the Knicks, in Game 3, he took just 4. Against Portland, 4. Against OKC again, 7. And against Minnesota, only 5. When you study Victor's 6 most productive games statistically, one trend jumps off the page. The three-point attempts usually stay in that 4 to 5 range. Once that number starts creeping towards 7, 9, or even 10 attempts, that's when things tend to go sideways.
It's tied again, final seconds. No fouls to give. Wemby, three-pointer. Champagnie kicks it out in the corner. Corner 3. Wemby, top of the backboard.
If we're talking about Victor's 2 greatest performances of this entire postseason, Game 1 against OKC has to be near the top, with 41 points while attempting only 2 three-pointers. And then there's Game 3 of the finals where he took just 4. When you watch both of those games from beginning to end, one thing becomes crystal clear. He completely controlled the action and imposed his presence on every possession. And when you look at that finals performance through the lens of NBA history using Game Score, hold up, you're talking about one of the 50 greatest finals games ever recorded. Among players who are 22 years old or younger, that performance places him in extremely rare company, filled with future Hall of Famers. At the top of that list sits Magic Johnson's legendary Game 6 against Philadelphia. Right behind him is Victor. Third is Russell Westbrook's 2012 finals performance, and fourth is Tim Duncan during his first championship run in 1999. Once again, the numbers tell a fascinating story. Game 3 may end up being remembered as one of the defining moments of Victor's young career. Whether it carries major long-term significance remains to be seen, but if we're judging it strictly on its own, for a 22-year-old player, it stands among the greatest finals performances the league has ever witnessed. That alone is an incredible statement. And before wrapping this up, there's one final thing worth mentioning. When you examine Victor's first postseason run from round 1 all the way through the finals, the biggest theme has been growth, adjustment, and learning from adversity. This playoff journey hasn't been flawless. He's had rough nights and disappointing performances along the way, but more often than not, he responds by coming back stronger and delivering an even bigger performance the next time out. Think back to that OKC series. There were multiple moments when the Spurs could have folded, accepted defeat, and told themselves they simply lost to the defending champions. Instead, time after time, they kept fighting, and a huge reason for that was Victor's determination. And now we're seeing that same pattern play out in the finals. After falling behind 0-2 and letting Game 2 slip away, many young and inexperienced teams would have crumbled under the pressure. The atmosphere, the expectations, and the magnitude of the moment would have been too much. But listen to this. This Spurs team continues to show that they're built differently. And when you look at their leader, the pressure and the stakes never seem to rattle him. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.